gold go up in 2019? I'm going to show you tested data that I put together that's going to show you that gold is going to start to move 2019, 2020. The gold price will undeniably increase, and I'm going to show you the data that backs up this evidence. All right, so let's look at I'm going to show you the palladium price first. Now, what you need to understand is gold has a huge paper market. It's derivatives on top of derivatives on top of, for 1 ounce of gold. So for 1 ounce of gold, there may be about, I think, 80 ounces in a paper market. So if these paper market didn't exist, the price of gold would have already been, unnaturally high, or it probably wouldn't have been unnatural, but it would have been the normal high that it's supposed to be, and it would have been moving, and it would have caused a massive panic already because people would have been buying gold probably since 2013, and it would have kept on buying. Wouldn't went through a decrease like it has. But the palladium market moves first. So let's look at the palladium market. So you can look at, and I'll show you these same time frames on the gold market. So palladium 1996 was about 120 or 116. Let's just say 100. In 97. Okay, so it went all the way up to 1,000 in 2001. So it went up 10 times, and it's about 5-year period. So let's look what gold did, and let's see when. Because I said the palladium market, it isn't manipulated. Palladium is in such a short supply that you can't really, it's dangerous if you get derivatives on palladium, because you see how fast it moves up in such a short time. So let's look at gold. Gold in that period from 97 to 2001, it went nowhere really. That's because of the paper market. However, eventually that paper market becomes ineffective, and gold went from 266 up to about 1800. So the palladium market is a precursor, and this was in the 90s to 2011. So let's look at palladium as of lately. Palladium, you see 2016, palladium, let's hit the low point, was 482. Okay. And let's look at now, it's 1100. Okay. So as I mentioned, this is the canary in the coal mine for what gold is set to do. It's a beacon signal saying that gold's price, or all commodity prices for that matter, are set to increase. So let's look at gold. Let's see what it did from that period, 2016. It was 1100, 1200. It didn't go anywhere. However, it will soon increase. So let's look at some of these other commodities to see what they've been doing. So we look at steel right here. This is an article from May 2018. Steel prices have risen 40%. So you got trade wars, you have tariffs. So steel has already increased, which is killing the car makers. GM, they laid off 18,000 people. Ford layoffs because these car manufacturers, they can't command the profit that they once did because of the cost of components have increased. Okay, and let's look at the money supply. And this is a chart or data I put together. This is the data right here, and it's based on the M2 money supply, which is a representation of money. Let's call it on-hand money. A lot of physical money in direct ownership, whether it's checking accounts or money just people just have in their pocket. This is the M2 money supply. It's not the M0, not the M3. So you can see it's 14 trillion dollars right here, and this just shows the increase. Went from 2 trillion, up. So you could just look at the M2. This is the Federal Reserve Bank. This is their website where I got the data. And for the years, this actually only goes to 1980. I think they have another chart, or you could just Google search the information for earlier. So I actually went back to 1920 to get the data. So let's look at, And what you need to know is that prior to 1960, actually prior to 1960, gold, didn't float freely. It was like at a fixed price. This is why you see the 20s. This is why you see the 35 so repetitive here. So to get an accurate gauge, you actually have to look at 1960 and after. You can look at for these other earlier years. You can actually look at palladium, platinum. You can look at other metals that always floated freely. But let's look at 1960. So you got so this is what I did. I got the M2 number. This was 300. What's that? 300 billion here. I just took 30%. This 30% is 30% of this number. I just did that to smooth it, so we didn't get these large, even though they're still large, we didn't get these large, crazy numbers. And I took the price of gold per ounce, 1920, you got $20, 1980, $8.50, 2018, you got gold, what you saw on the other chart at $1,200 gold. Okay. So I took 30%. This number here, and I divided the price into the 30% number, the price per gold per ounce into the 30% number, and I got a direct number. Now, this number should usually be, not usually, but this number, when normalized, and it's hardly ever normalized, but when normalized, it goes to around 500 million. You see, this is when it was normalized here. It's always around 500 million, give or take. So 1960, this is when the price of gold was out of whack. Now, the price of gold, what you need to realize, the price of gold and the money supply, they have a direct correlation. It's similar to how the price of a car, let's say, has a direct correlation to the price of the car's tires. So if you buy a car for less than $10,000, you should be expecting to pay, I don't know, maybe $100 a tire, somewhere in that range. If you buy a car for $80,000, you may be expecting to pay $200 to $400 to $500 per tire. If you buy a Bugatti, if you buy, $500,000 car, you should expect to pay, I don't even know, maybe $1,000 tires. But I just say that just so you know that the price of certain items are correlated, and they should usually have some kind of ratio that you can gather. So let's say the price of beef compared to the price of chicken, or the price of sugar compared to the price of bread. You'll go crazy trying to find all these correlations. But this is one that I did find here, amongst many others that I have researched. But you'll see it's around 500 million. So it's out of whack here. It's 2.5 billion. So the higher it goes past the 500 million is the more stronger, the higher your conviction should be for the price of gold to increase. So 1960, 2.5 billion. Price of gold went from $35 an ounce. Now this is where it normalized. You got that $500,000 or 500 million rather. And it went from 35 to 850. Okay. Now, 1999. This is when the price of gold was 270. Not only you have the 2.5 billion, you actually got 4.6 billion. Price of gold 270. And it didn't normalize all of the way, or it didn't go to that 500. And I'll show you this on another chart. It didn't go to that 500 million. It went to 1.5 billion, but it's not close, but it's kind of close. And even still, gold went from 270 to 1820. Also, look at the M2, the money supply. It went from 4 trillion to 9 trillion. So the faster that this goes up, the faster the gold price goes up as well. And we'll look at this where were we? This 1960 period as well. You got 300. This M2, you got 300 billion. Then 20 years later, you got 1.5 trillion. So that's about, what's that, 5 times? So you see how fast the money supply, and you look at the the price of gold, and you see how much it went up. So let's look at that money supply, or actually the swings here. Well, before we do that, let's look at 2018. 2018, you got 3.5 billion. This number, and it's supposed to be 500 million, and it's 3.5 billion. Now let's take this 14 trillion, 30% of that is about 4 trillion. And let's take it down here just to see what the price of gold would be if we don't even get to this 500 million. What if we just get to 850 million? So you got 4 trillion divided by this 850 here, 850 million. Then that number will equal 5,000. So the price of gold, once it swings back, if no additional money is enters the economy by then, you're looking at 5,000 per ounce gold, and right now it's 1220. So this is, the price is going up. It has to go here, and I'll show you why on this next chart. Let's say the money supply increases to 20 trillion. It's increasing every day. Let's say it increases to 20 trillion. You got 30% of that number, 6 trillion. You take the 850, not the 550. You take the 850, you got 7,000 per ounce gold. Right now the price is 1,200. Now let's look at the swings. I'll show you the swings, how it goes from 530, 500s, down to the trillions here, or the billions. Sorry about that. Yeah, the 3 billions and the 4 billions. So let's look at the Dow gold ratio. Now here are the swings. When you calculate the data, you put it on a graph, the swings are very evident. And the swings, they're kind of like a wrecking ball. If you release a wrecking ball on a wall, it's not just going to hit the wall and tap it and stop at the wall. It's going to go through the wall, and it's going to swing too widely, kind of like a pendulum does. So, and that's part of the reason that this swings widely is because of human nature of people. So human nature here, this is the 1920s. This is the what's it? Is it the go-go? No, it's not the go-go. I forget the name of this period. I know the 60s was the go-go. Oh, this is the roaring 20s. So this is the roaring 20s. People get into these manias and they overbought stocks. So this is basically them overbuying the Dow, because this is a Dow gold ratio. And, as I said, gold was fixed, so they couldn't overbuy gold because it was fixed at $20. But they overpurchased the Dow. Okay, so this is a swing. Then once you hit that 1929 Great Depression, the wrecking ball comes and it overshoots. This average, I think, is about 13, 15, somewhere around there. But it goes too high, then it goes way too low. Okay? Then it took some while for them to build up confidence. They building up confidence. And this is the go-go, I think they call it the go-go years. Where the IBMs and the Xeroxes, stocks were inflated. So they overbought. This is supposed to be 15, I think, or 13, one of the two. They overbought. Now here comes that wrecking ball, because they overshot. They were supposed to get here and stay here, but they overshot. And then it goes under. Okay, this is the swings. It took took a long time to build confidence, and actually, here was the inverse. People overbought gold, but that's for another video. But they overbought. Well, they didn't overbuy yet. But it hit 15. Then he overbought. You can't stop it that fast. It's like a car going 120 miles an hour. It's not going to come to a complete stop if it needs to. It's going to overshoot the goal. So overshot right here, then it goes and it undershot. Now, if you see here, it didn't hit this low. It didn't go to 2, didn't go to 2. Now, this only went to 6. Now, if it would have went to 2 in 2011 instead of this 1.5 billion, this is when you would have got the 500. Are you with me? This is when you would have got the 500 million. Now, let me go back to that. Where was I? Okay. Now it went up, supposed to stop at 15, overshot. And now I don't know if this swing is in yet or this complete downtrend is in yet, but I did some more analysis, and I have about a year and a half left until you see gold prices start to move higher. I mean, not a year and a half left, within the next year and a half, within the next 2 years, I guarantee. I mean, the data doesn't lie. It's kind of like if I'm in the northeast of the U.S. Mid-Atlantic area. It's kind of like if in the winter here, if the average temperatures are 35, let's say in the winter, average temperature 36, and I'm just making this up. But if the temperature hits 80 degrees in the winter, that average is going to revert back to the 36. So this is kind of where it is now. When you look at this, based on this previous data, or you should know, I hope that this is too high of a number. It's not sustainable based on this M2 money supply. And that's because if you look at the Dow, the Dow, I think, went up from 8,000 to the low in 2009 to 26,000, or 20, it may have been 27,000 in 2018. So much like the history really doesn't change, or human nature doesn't change, much like the keep on forgetting this period, much like the roaring 20s, people oversubscribed, or they overpurchased the Dow or the market, real estate, any assets, and they underbought gold. And actually overbought crypto. They overbought a bunch of things, Bitcoin. However, they're going to start to realize, they're going to come back, and they should see having a aha moment, but there's so much manipulation going on. But once the manipulation isn't able to continue, they're going to see that they should have bought gold, but by then it's probably going to overshoot this number. So you may be looking at $6,000, $8,000 gold per ounce. And this is during the period where the Dow may decrease or stay at the same level. So you're going to get, let's say 1,000. Let's call the price of gold 1,000. You're going to get 5 times, 7 times your money. In a place where returns are going to be, the Dow is going to be negative once you add in inflation. So will gold go up in 2019? I think you saw the data, and I'm going to have more videos with more data. I think you saw that gold is set to go up 2019, 2020. So let me know what you think about the video. Leave a comment below if you need me to explain anything else. If you have any questions, comments, like the video, share it to with your friends. And gold, you can see, is set to rise. Thanks for watching. To subscribe for more financial content, please click the circular button where the red arrow is located, and also watch one of the top 2 videos up top.